The dress was red. Not the kind of red you wore to blend in, the kind that demanded attention, that turned heads, that made people remember you were in the room. Zuri hadn't owned anything like it in the 2 years she'd been with Sung Jin. She'd bought it herself, with her own money, from her own job at the hospital where she translated for immigrant patients who couldn't afford interpreters. But when Sung Jin saw her wearing it at his associate's dinner party, his face went cold in a way she recognized, the way it always did right before something broke. "Who got you that dress?" he asked. "Hello viewers, welcome to Afroquave TV, where stories are made real. Before we continue, we will love to know where you are watching this video from. Kindly type your location and the time you are watching this video. This will help us know which story to upload next and the time to upload it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to be part of our fast-growing audience. We appreciate all your support." They were standing in the corner of a private dining room in Gangnam. Around them, men in expensive suits talked about real estate deals and shipping routes. Their wives, perfectly polished Korean women who'd learned long ago not to ask questions, sat at a separate table pretending not to notice anything. Zuri looked at Sung Jin. Really looked at him. The man she'd fallen in love with 3 years ago in New York, when he was just a businessman on a work trip, and she was a grad student working nights at a hospital to pay her tuition. Before she knew what he really did, before she understood that his family business meant controlling half of Seoul's underground economy. Before she moved to Korea for him and realized she'd walked into a cage disguised as luxury. "I bought it," she said quietly, "with my paycheck." Sung Jin's jaw tightened. "That's not what I asked." "That's the answer." He grabbed her arm. Not hard enough to leave a mark, he never did that in public, but firm enough that she felt the warning in it. "We're leaving," he said. "The dinner just started." "I said we're leaving." Zuri let him guide her out of the restaurant, let him open the door of his black sedan, let him tell the driver to take them home without looking at her. She'd learned to pick her battles. This wasn't one she could win. The penthouse was silent when they arrived. Sung Jin's apartment sat on the 43rd floor of a building in Cheongdam-dong, all clean lines and expensive furniture that nobody ever sat on. It looked like a showroom. Cold, perfect, empty, like their relationship had become. Sung Jin poured himself whiskey, didn't offer her any. Just stood by the window looking out at Seoul's lights, his back to her. Zuri knew this routine. The silence that stretched until she broke it. The waiting game where he held all the power because he could afford to wait and she couldn't afford to leave. "Are you going to tell me what I did wrong?" she asked. "You don't know?" "Apparently not." He turned. The light from the city behind him made his face hard to read, but his voice was clear enough. "That dress cost more than you make in a month." Zuri's stomach tightened. "I've been saving." "For what?" "To impress someone." "To buy something nice for myself, is that a crime?" "It is when you're trying to get attention from other men." The accusation landed like a slap. Zuri had heard it before, in different forms. When she smiled too warmly at the doorman, when she talked too long with a male colleague, when she existed in ways that suggested she might still be a person outside of being Sung Jin's girlfriend. "I wasn't trying to get anyone's attention," she said carefully. "I just wanted to wear something that made me feel good." "In front of my business associates? In front of people who already think I'm weak for being with a foreigner? Then maybe you shouldn't be with me." The words came out before she could stop them. Honest. Dangerous. Sung Jin set down his glass, crossed the room in 3 steps, stood close enough that she could smell the whiskey on his breath. "You want to leave?" he asked quietly. Zuri's heart hammered. "I want you to trust me." "I do trust you. It's other men I don't trust." "Then your problem isn't with me." "My problem," Sung Jin said, his voice dropping lower, "is that you don't understand how things work here. You walk around in dresses like that, smiling at everyone, acting like you're still in America where women do whatever they want. But you're not in America. You're in my world. And in my world, people notice everything. They use everything. And I can't protect you if you won't let me." Zuri felt the familiar knot forming in her chest. The one that said he was right and wrong at the same time. Right that his world was dangerous. Wrong that the solution was making her smaller. "I don't need protection from a dress," she said. "You don't get to decide what you need, I do. That's not how love works." Sung-jin's expression shifted. Something almost like pain crossed his face before the coldness returned. "No," he said, "but it's how survival works. And if you want to survive here, you need to understand that." He walked away, left her standing in the middle of the showroom penthouse wearing a red dress that suddenly felt too tight. Zuri went to the bedroom, changed into one of the modest nightgowns Sung-jin preferred, washed her face, stared at herself in the bathroom mirror. She was 28 years old, had a master's degree, spoke 3 languages, worked at one of Seoul's top hospitals, and somehow she'd become someone who needed permission to wear red. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Zuri lay in bed beside Sung-jin, who'd fallen asleep without touching her, and thought about how she'd gotten here. 3 years ago, she'd been working the night shift at Mount Sinai when Sung-jin came in with a colleague who'd had a heart attack scare. A false alarm turned out, but Sung-jin had stayed while his friend was examined, had talked to Zuri during the long wait. He'd been charming, funny, asked about her studies, her family, her dreams. Didn't talk about himself much except to say he worked in international business and traveled constantly. They'd gone for coffee after her shift, then dinner the next week. Then he was flying her to Paris for a weekend, Boston for her birthday, Miami because she'd never been. It felt like a fairy tale. The successful businessman and the struggling student. He was generous, attentive, always surprising her with thoughtful gifts. When he asked her to move to Seoul with him, promising to support her while she finished her degree and found work, it seemed like the obvious next step. She'd been naive. Seoul wasn't Paris or Boston or any of the places they'd visited together. In Seoul, Sung-jin was different, colder, more controlling. The charming boyfriend became the jealous partner who needed to know where she was every hour, who checked her phone, who had opinions about her clothes, her friends, her tone of voice. And slowly, Zuri had learned what international business really meant. The late-night meetings with men who carried guns. The way people looked at Sung-jin with a mixture of respect and fear. The money that appeared and disappeared without explanation. The clubs and restaurants and businesses that all somehow connected back to his family. By the time she understood, she was already trapped. No money of her own. No real friends in Korea. No family to run to. Just Sung-jin and his world, and the suffocating feeling that she'd traded her freedom for luxury without realizing the price. The hospital job had been her rebellion, her tiny piece of independence. Sung-jin had allowed it, barely, because it looked good. The successful businessman's girlfriend is doing charity work. It played well with his image, but even that he monitored, called during her shifts, showed up unannounced, made sure she knew she was only free as long as he permitted it. Zuri turned over in bed, careful not to wake him. Tomorrow she'd apologize, tell him she understood, promise to be more careful about what she wore, how she acted, who she talked to. She'd done it before. I would do it again. Because leaving wasn't an option. Not yet. Not until she figured out how to survive on her own in a country where she barely spoke the language and had no legal standing without him. But as she finally drifted towards sleep, Zuri made herself a promise. The red dress was just the beginning. One day she'd wear whatever she wanted, smile at whoever made her happy, live without asking permission. One day she'd be free. She just had to survive long enough to get there. The apology came in the morning, like it always did. Sung-jin woke her with coffee, the expensive kind she liked, that he only bought when he was feeling guilty. He set it on the nightstand and sat on the edge of the bed, his hand resting on her hip through the blanket. "I overreacted last night," he said. Zuri sat up slowly, holding the warm cup. "Okay? You looked beautiful. That's why I was upset. Everyone was looking at you. That's not my fault. I know, I just..." He paused, and for a moment she saw something real in his face, something vulnerable. "I'm not good at sharing with you. Even with strangers looking, I know it's wrong. I'm working on it." The script was familiar. The apology wasn't quite an apology. The admission of fault that somehow still made it her problem, but Zuri was tired of fighting. "Okay," she said again. "We have dinner with my mother tonight. She wants to meet you." Zuri's chest tightened. "Tonight? I know it's short notice, but she's leaving for Jeju tomorrow and she insisted." Meeting Sungjin's mother, the woman who'd built the family business alongside her late husband, the woman whose approval Sungjin still craved despite being 35 years old. This wasn't just dinner. This was a test. "What should I wear?" Zuri asked carefully. Sungjin smiled. "Something conservative. She's traditional." Of course she was. They arrived at the restaurant at 7. It was the kind of place that didn't have signs, just a discreet entrance in an alley off Samcheong-dong where only people who knew could find it. Sungjin's mother was already seated in a private room. She was smaller than Zuri expected, elegant in a dark hanbok, her silver hair pulled back severely. When they entered, she didn't stand, just looked at Zuri with eyes that missed nothing. "So you're an American," she said in Korean. Zuri understood enough to bow properly. "Yes, ma'am, thank you for inviting me." "You speak Korean?" "A little, I'm learning." The woman gestured for them to sit. 2 years in Korea and only a little?" Sungjin started to speak, but his mother silenced him with a look. "I asked her," she said. Zuri felt the weight of judgment settling on her shoulders. "I work at the hospital. Most of my patients speak English, or I use a translator app. I'm taking classes, but you haven't prioritized it." "Mother," Sungjin said quietly, "I'm just observing. If she's serious about staying, she should be serious about integration." The dinner proceeded in tense silence, broken only by his mother's pointed questions about Zuri's family, middle class, unremarkable. Her education, good, but not from a prestigious Korean university. Her intentions, what could she say? "I love your son even though he's suffocating me." By the time dessert arrived, Zuri felt like she'd been cross-examined by a prosecutor. Then Sungjin's mother leaned forward. "My son tells me you work with immigrants, poor people who can't afford real doctors." "I'm a medical interpreter," Zuri corrected gently. "And they can afford doctors, they just need help communicating." "Why?" "Because healthcare is a human right. Language shouldn't be a barrier." How noble. The woman's tone made it clear she thought the opposite. "And how much does this noble work pay?" Zuri felt her face heat. "Enough to support myself, but not enough to buy designer dresses." The red dress. Of course Sungjin had told her. "I save money," Zuri said. "I'm careful with what I earn." "To buy things that make my son look foolish?" "Mother," Sungjin tried again. "No, let her answer. You bought that dress to provoke him, didn't you? To show him you don't need his money. To embarrass him in front of his associates." Zuri's hands clenched under the table. "I bought that dress because I liked it, that's all." "That's never all. Not for women like you." "Women like me?" Sungjin's mother smiled coldly. "Foreign women who attach themselves to successful Korean men, who think they can use beauty and exotic appeal to secure a future. I've seen it before. It never ends well." The room went silent. Zuri felt something crack inside her, the careful politeness she'd been maintaining, the script she'd been following. "With all due respect," she said quietly, "you don't know me. You don't know why I'm with your son or what I want from this relationship. And judging me based on my nationality and the color of my skin says more about you than it does about me." Sungjin went pale. His mother's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. "Zuri," Sungjin said, "apologize." "For what? Telling the truth?" "For being disrespectful." "I wasn't disrespectful. I was honest. There's a difference." Sungjin's mother stood. "This dinner is over, Sungjin. When you're ready to have a serious conversation about your future, call me. Until then, I have nothing more to say." She left without another word. Sungjin stared at Zuri like she'd just destroyed something precious. "What did you do?" he whispered. "I stood up for myself." "You ruined everything." "She insulted me. She basically called me a gold digger and... So you embarrass me? Make me look like I can't control my own girlfriend? The word control hung in the air between them. Is that what this is about? Zuri asked. Control? This is about respect, about understanding that when you're with me, your actions reflect on me, and tonight you made me look weak. Then maybe I shouldn't be with you. She said it again. The thing she'd been thinking for months. Sung Jin's face hardened. Fine, leave, but you'll leave with nothing. No money, no apartment, no job reference. I'll make sure every hospital in Seoul knows you're unreliable. Every landlord knows you're a bad tenant. You'll have nothing. You can't do that. I can do whatever I want. This is my city, my country, and you're only here because I allow it. Zuri stood up. Her legs shook, but she forced herself to stay steady. I'm going home. To my apartment? To get my things. And then where? You have nowhere to go. He was right. She had nowhere to go. No friends who weren't his friends. No money. Saved because he'd convinced her she didn't need to save. No safety net. But she couldn't stay. Not anymore. I'll figure it out, she said. She walked out of the restaurant, took a taxi to the penthouse. I started packing. Her hands shook as she threw clothes into a suitcase. The red dress sat on top. She looked at it for a long moment, then left it hanging in the closet. Let him remember what started this. She'd made it halfway through packing when Sung Jin came home. He didn't say anything, just stood in the doorway watching her. Don't do this, he finally said. I have to. You'll regret it. Maybe. But staying would destroy me. Sung Jin crossed the room, took her hands in his. For once, his grip was gentle. I love you, he said. I know I'm difficult. I know I'm controlling. But it's only because I'm terrified of losing you. Every time another man looks at you, I see you realizing you could do better, could find someone who deserves you. And I can't, his voice broke. I can't survive that. Zuri felt tears sting her eyes. This was the man she'd fallen in love with, vulnerable, honest, humans. But it wasn't enough anymore. Your love is suffocating me, she whispered, and I can't breathe. Then I'll change. I'll do better. You've said that before. This time I mean it. You always mean it. She pulled her hands free, went back to packing. Sung Jin watched for another minute, then he left the room. She heard him in his office making phone calls. Conducting business like her leaving was just another problem to solve. Maybe it was. Zuri finished packing, carried her suitcases to the door, called a taxi. She'd made it to the elevator when Sung Jin appeared. If you walk out that door, he said, we're done. I won't take you back. I know. You'll regret this. Probably. The elevator arrived. She stepped inside. As the doors closed, she saw Sung Jin's face. Not angry, just broken. It almost made her stop. Almost. Zuri spent the first night in a love motel in Hongdae. It was cheap, anonymous, the kind of place where nobody asked questions. She lay on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, and tried to figure out what came next. Her phone buzzed constantly. Sung Jin calling, texting, leaving voicemails that ranged from angry to pleading to coldly threatening. She turned it off. The next morning she went to the hospital, told her supervisor she needed emergency time off, made vague references to a family crisis. The supervisor, a kind older woman who'd always liked Zuri, didn't push for details. Take care of yourself, she said. Your job will be here when you're ready. If only everything else was that simple. Zuri spent 3 days in different cheap hotels, moving every night, trying to stay invisible. She had enough money for maybe 2 weeks if she was careful. After that, she'd have to figure something out. On the 4th day, her phone rang from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Zuri, a woman's voice, Korean but speaking English. My name is Detective Park Mi-sun. I work for the Seoul Metropolitan Police. I need to speak with you about Sung Jin. Zuri's blood went cold. What about him? Not over the phone. Can you meet me somewhere public? They met at a cafe in Itaewon. Detective Park was in her 40s, professional, with tired eyes that suggested she'd seen too much. Thank you for coming, she said. I know this must be frightening. What's this about? How much do you know about Sung Jin's business? I know it's not entirely legal. It's not legal at all. He runs one of the largest organized crime syndicates in Seoul, money laundering, protection rackets, human trafficking. His family has been under investigation for 3 years. Zuri felt sick. Human trafficking? We believe so. We don't have proof yet. That's why I'm talking to you. I don't know anything about that. But you lived with him. You must have seen things, heard things. I tried not to. Detective Park leaned forward. Zuri, I know you're scared. I know leaving him was probably the hardest thing you've ever done, but you could help us stop him. Help us save the women he's trafficking. Give us the evidence we need. I don't have evidence. I was just his girlfriend. You had access to his home, his files, his computer. I never looked at any of that. But you could if you go back. Zuri stood up so fast she knocked over her coffee. No, absolutely not. He's hurting people. And if I go back, he'll hurt me. Do you understand? He told me he'd destroy me if I left. What do you think he'll do if he finds out I'm working with the police? Detective Park's expression softened. We can protect you. You can't protect me from him. Nobody can. Then help us put him away, permanently. Zuri shook her head, backed away from the table. I'm sorry, I can't. I won't. She left the cafe, spent the next 2 hours walking aimlessly through Seoul trying to process what she'd heard. Human trafficking. Not just money crimes or protection rackets. Actual human lives being bought and sold. And she'd been sleeping next to the man responsible. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Think about it. You could save them. Detective Park Zuri deleted it, but the words stayed with her. That night Zuri made a decision. She couldn't go back to Sung Jin, couldn't work with the police, couldn't stay in Seoul. She had to leave Korea entirely. She went to the American embassy the next morning, explained that she needed help getting home. The consular officer was sympathetic, but firm. We can loan you money for a ticket, he said, but you'll have to pay it back, and we can't help with any legal issues you might have here. I don't have legal issues. Are you sure? Because if someone's threatened you, if you're in danger, I just need to go home. The officer studied her for a long moment, then nodded. We can have a ticket ready in 3 days. You'll fly into New York. Can you stay safe until then? Yes. She hoped it was true. Zuri spent those 3 days hiding, changing hotels every night, avoiding places she and Sung Jin used to go, counting down the hours until she could leave. On the second day, she got a call from the hospital. Her supervisor's voice was tight. Zuri, I need you to come in. There's been a complaint. What kind of complaint? I can't discuss it over the phone, but it's serious. If you don't come in to address it, I'll have to terminate your employment. Zuri's hands shook. Who complained? A patient's family member. That's all I can say. It was Sung Jin. Had to be. Zuri went to the hospital, found her supervisor waiting with HR and a man she didn't recognize. This is Mr. Kang, the supervisor said. He represents the family of a patient you saw last month. They're alleging medical negligence. What? I'm not a doctor. I'm an interpreter. They claim you mistranslated critical information that led to their mother receiving incorrect treatment. They're threatening to sue the hospital unless we take action. Zuri felt the trap closing. That's not true. I followed protocol exactly. Do you have records of the translation? No, interpreting is verbal. There's no record. Then it's your word against theirs. Mr. Kang leaned forward. My clients are willing to drop the lawsuit if Ms. Zuri resigns immediately and signs a statement admitting fault. There it was. Sung Jin's revenge. He couldn't force her back, so he was destroying her career instead. I won't sign that, Zuri said. Then we'll proceed with the lawsuit, Mr. Kang said calmly. And given the lack of documentation, I think you'll find Korean courts very sympathetic to the family's position. You could face criminal charges for negligence. Her supervisor looked uncomfortable. Zuri, maybe you should consider... No. Zuri stood. I did nothing wrong, and I won't let anyone make me say I did. She walked out. That afternoon, she got an email. Her bank account had been frozen. Some issues with her visa status that required immediate resolution. More of Sung Jin's work. Zuri sat in her hotel room and finally let herself cry. Not gentle tears. Angry, frustrated, terrified sobs that shook her whole body. He was systematically destroying everything. Her job, her money, her ability to leave, and there was nothing she could do about it. Her phone rang. Detective Park. I heard about the hospital, she said. I'm sorry. Did you know this would happen? I suspected he'd retaliate. Men like Sung Jin don't accept rejection well. So what now? He ruins my life and gets away with it? Unless you help us stop him. Zuri closed her eyes. What would I have to do? Go back to him, apologize, make him believe you've changed your mind. Then get us evidence, photos of documents, recordings of conversations, access to his computer files, anything that proves what he's doing. He'll know, he'll figure it out. Not if you're careful. And if I'm not careful? Detective Park was quiet for a moment. Then we'll do everything we can to protect you, but I won't lie, it's dangerous. If he finds out, I don't know what he'll do. He'll kill me. Maybe. Or maybe he loves you enough that he won't. His love is the most dangerous thing about him. Then use it. Make him believe you came back because you love him too. Play the role. And when you have what we need, we'll get you out. Zuri thought about the women being trafficked, the lives being destroyed, the empire built on suffering. She thought about Sung Jin's face when she'd left, the brokenness in it. She thought about who she wanted to be, a woman who ran from hard things or a woman who stood and fought. Okay, she said, I'll do it. You're sure? No, but I'll do it anyway. Detective Park gave her instructions, a special phone to use for contact, places to hide evidence, emergency, protocols if things went wrong. Then Zuri called Sung Jin. He answered on the first ring. I'm sorry, she said, letting her voice break. I made a mistake. Can I come home? Silence. Then, where are you? A hotel in Hongdae. I'll send a car. He hung up. Zuri packed her few belongings, put the special phone Detective Park had given her in a hidden pocket of her purse. Then she waited for the car that would take her back to the cage, this time as bait. The car that picked her up wasn't Sung Jin's usual driver. This man was younger, harder, with a scar running down his left cheek and eyes that watched her in the rearview mirror like she might disappear if he blinked. Mr. Park wants to make sure you're comfortable, he said in Korean. Zuri's stomach tightened. They were watching her already, testing her. Tell him I appreciate it, she said. The drive to the penthouse took 40 minutes through evening traffic. When they arrived, Sung Jin was waiting in the lobby, not upstairs, not sending someone to fetch her, actually waiting. He looked terrible, thinner. Dark circles under his eyes. His suit was perfectly pressed but somehow disheveled on him. You came back, he said. I had nowhere else to go. It was the truth, just not the whole truth. Sung Jin stepped closer. For a moment she thought he might embrace her. Instead, he just studied her face like he was searching for lies. I froze your bank account, he said. I know. Got you fired from the hospital. I know that too. And you still came back? Zuri met his eyes. I came back because despite everything I still... She let her voice break, let tears form. I still love you and I'm scared, and I don't know what else to do. It was a performance, but performances only worked when they contained pieces of truth. Sung Jin's expression cracked. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. I'm sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry. I was angry. I wanted to hurt you the way you hurt me, but I went too far. I always go too far. Zuri let herself sag against him, let him feel her surrender. I'll fix everything, Sung Jin promised. Your job, your money, everything. Just don't leave again. Please don't leave. I won't, she lied. The first 3 days back were almost normal. Sung Jin was attentive, gentle. The version of himself he showed when he was trying to prove he could change. He had flowers delivered to the penthouse, cooked her favorite meals. Didn't question where she was or who she talked to, but Zuri knew it wouldn't last. It never did. On the fourth night, he had a meeting. "Business," he said, kissing her forehead. "I'll be back late. Don't wait up." The moment he left, Zuri moved. She went to his office. The door was locked, but she'd watched him enter the code enough times to memorize it. Inside, everything was exactly as she remembered, neat, organized. Hiding secrets in plain sight, she pulled out the special phone Detective Park had given her and started photographing documents. Shipping manifests, financial records, names and numbers that meant nothing to her but would mean everything to investigators. She was halfway through a filing cabinet when she found it. A folder labeled simply AM. Her initials. Zuri's hands shook as she opened it. Inside were photos of her, hundreds of them. Some she remembered, dates they'd been on, trips they'd taken, but others were different. Candid shots taken without her knowledge. Walking to work. Shopping for groceries, having coffee with colleagues. He'd been watching her, documenting her, long before they'd ever fought. But that wasn't the worst part. Beneath the photos were documents. Background checks on her family, financial records for her parents, medical histories, everything intimate and private about her life, investigated and filed away. And at the bottom, a contract. Zuri's vision blurred as she read it. A legal document, written in Korean and English, stating that in exchange for financial support and residency sponsorship, she agreed to certain behavioral expectations: fidelity, obedience, limited contact with family and friends. It was dated 3 years ago, right after she'd moved to Seoul. She'd never seen it before, never signed it, but her signature was there at the bottom, perfect, forged. Zuri's phone, the regular one, buzzed. A text from Sung Jin. "How's your evening?" Her fingers trembled as she typed back, "Quiet, missing you." She photographed everything in the folder, every page, every photo, every violation of her privacy and autonomy. Then she carefully put it all back exactly as she'd found it. She was closing the filing cabinet when she heard the front door open. Sung Jin was home early. Zuri's heart stopped. She couldn't be caught in his office, couldn't explain what she was doing. She heard his footsteps, coming closer. "Zuri?" She shoved the special phone into her bra and stepped out of the office just as Sung Jin reached the hallway. "There you are," he said, smiling. I thought you'd be in bed." "I couldn't sleep. I was just walking around." His eyes flicked to the office door behind her, still open. She'd forgotten to close it. "Were you in my office?" His voice was casual. Too casual. "The door was open. I was just looking." "At what?" "Nothing. Everything. I don't know. I was bored and lonely," and she let tears come again. Real ones this time, born of genuine fear. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have gone in there." Sung Jin studied her for a long moment. Then he stepped past her into the office. Zuri held her breath as he looked around. At the filing cabinet she'd carefully closed. At the desk where documents were stacked exactly as he'd left them. "Everything looks fine," he said finally. "I didn't touch anything, I promise." He turned to face her. "I believe you." But something in his eyes said he didn't. Not completely. The next morning, Sung Jin announced they were going away. For the weekend. "Jeju Island," he said over breakfast. "Just the two of us. A chance to reconnect." Zuri's blood ran cold. Jeju Island. Remote. Isolated. Far from Seoul and Detective Park and any safety net. "That sounds lovely," she said. They left that afternoon. Sung Jin drove them to the airport himself, keeping one hand on her thigh the entire drive. Possessive, claiming. The flight was short, an hour of Zuri trying to act normal while the special phone burned against her skin where she'd hidden it in her clothing. The house on Jeju was beautiful. Perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, all windows and clean lines, the kind of place that looked like paradise. The kind of place where no one would hear you scream. "What do you think?" Sung Jin asked as they stood on the deck watching the sunset. "It's perfect." "I bought it for us for when we need to get away." "You bought it? When? 6 months ago?" He pulled her close. "I've been planning this for a while. A place where it could just be us. No distractions, no outside interference, Zuri forced herself to smile. That's romantic, isn't it? That night, they had dinner on the deck. Expensive wine, fresh seafood. Sung Jin was charming, attentive, everything he'd been when they first met. But Zuri couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. After dinner, Sung Jin poured more wine. I need to tell you something, he said. Zuri's heart raced. Okay. I know why you came back. The world tilted. What? I know about Detective Park, about the phone she gave you, about the deal you made. Zuri couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Sung Jin... Let me finish. His voice was calm, almost gentle. I've known since the first day, since you called me from that hotel. My people were watching you. They saw you meet with a detective, saw you take the phone. Then why did I let you come back? Why did I pretend I didn't know? Sung Jin smiled. It didn't reach his eyes, because I wanted to see how far you'd go, how much you'd be willing to betray me. And now I know. Zuri stood up, backed away from the table. I need to leave. There's nowhere to go. We're on an island. My island. And I've made sure no one's looking for you. Detective Park, I think you changed your mind. I think you decided not to cooperate. I had someone send her a message from your phone. Very convincing, very final. Zuri's vision swam. This couldn't be happening. What are you going to do? Sung Jin stood. I walked toward her slowly. That depends on you. On me? I brought you here to make you understand something. I love you. More than I've ever loved anyone. More than is probably healthy or sane. And that love means I can't let you go. Won't let you betray me. Won't let you destroy everything I've built. Your empire is built on slavery, on suffering. My empire is built on survival, on taking what this world tried to deny my family, on making sure people like me, people who started with nothing, have power. His voice hardened. And I won't apologize for that, not to you, not to anyone. So what happens now? Sung Jin reached into his pocket, pulled out the special phone. Zuri's breath caught. When had he taken it? Now, he said, you make a choice. You can stay with me. Really stay. No more police. No more plans to leave. No more betrayals. Just us building a life together. I'll forgive what you've done. We'll start over. And if I say no, then I make sure you can't testify against me, can't hurt me, can't leave. The threat hung in the air. Clear. Final. Zuri's mind raced. She'd been so careful, so sure she could outsmart him, but he'd been 3 steps ahead the entire time. There's a third option, a voice said from the doorway. Zuri spun around. A woman stood there, Korean, mid-30s, dressed in black, holding a gun. Who the hell are you? Sung Jin demanded. The woman smiled. Someone your mother sent. Everything stopped. My mother? Sung Jin's face went pale. Your mother has been very concerned about your judgment lately, about your relationship with this woman, about the attention it's bringing to the family business. The woman's gun didn't waver. She asked me to handle the situation. Quietly. Zuri felt sick. You're going to kill me. Not if you're smart. Your girlfriend here has become a liability, Sung Jin. Detective Park has been building a case. Other people are watching. If Zuri disappears, it draws attention. But if she leaves voluntarily, goes back to America, signs papers saying she wants nothing to do with you, the woman shrugged. Problem solved. My mother sent you to threaten her? Sung Jin's voice was ice. Your mother sent me to protect the family by whatever means necessary. Get out. I don't take orders from you. I said get out. Sung Jin moved toward the woman. The gun fired. Not at Zuri, at Sung Jin. He dropped to his knees, clutching his shoulder, blood spreading across his white shirt. Your mother was very clear, the woman said calmly. If you resist, I'm authorized to use force. Against both of you if necessary. Zuri ran. She didn't think so. Just bolted through the house, out the front door, into the darkness. The cliff was behind her, the ocean beyond. Nowhere to go except down the long driveway toward the main road. She heard footsteps following, gunshots, bullets hitting trees beside her. She ran faster. The driveway seemed endless. Her lungs burned, her legs screamed, but she kept running until headlights appeared ahead. A car coming up the driveway. Zuri waved her arms, desperate. The car stopped. The driver's door opened. Detective Park stepped out. "Get in," she said. Zuri dove into the passenger seat. Detective Park hit the gas, swinging the car around. More gunshots. The rear window shattered. "How did you—" Zuri gasped. "The phone has GPS. When you didn't check in, I tracked you." Detective Park drove like she was racing. "I brought backup. They're 2 minutes behind us. Sung Jin's been shot. His mother sent someone—" "I know. We've been watching his mother for months. She's the real power in that family. Sung Jin was just the face." They hit the main road. Behind them, sirens wailed. Police cars and ambulances racing toward the Cliff House. Detective Park pulled over, turned to face Zuri. "You're safe now, but I need everything you found, every photo, every document. Can you do that?" Zuri's hands shook as she pulled out her regular phone, opened the hidden folder where she'd stored copies of everything from Sung Jin's office. "This is all of it," she said. Detective Park scrolled through the images. Her expression darkened. "This is enough. This will bury them." "Both of them? Sung Jin and his mother? Everyone, the whole organization." Zuri closed her eyes. It was over. Finally over. "What happened to me?" she asked. "Witness protection if you want it, or we can get you home to America. Your choice." "I want to go home." "Then we'll make that happen." 3 days later, Zuri boarded a plane to New York. The news broke while she was in the air. Massive organized crime bust in Seoul. Dozens arrested, including prominent businessman Park Sung-jin and his mother, matriarch of one of Korea's oldest criminal families. The trafficking ring was exposed. 17 women were freed. Justice, slow and imperfect, but justice nonetheless. Zuri watched the news coverage from her parents' house in Brooklyn. Saw Sung Jin being led away in handcuffs, his shoulder bandaged, his face empty. Part of her still loved him. The part that remembered coffee in bed and trips to Paris and the man who'd made her feel like the only person in the world. But the stronger part was just relieved to be alive. 6 months later, Zuri got a letter. It was forwarded through multiple addresses, but she recognized the handwriting immediately. "Zuri, I'm writing this from prison. They say I'll be here for 20 years, minimum. My lawyers think they can reduce it, but I don't know. I've had a lot of time to think about us, about who I became, about the cage I built for both of us. You were right to leave, right to fight back.